Welcome back, Gadgeteers. So, an issue has surfaced in the Linux community that made me come out of semi-retirement, if you will. Okay, I wasn't retired at all. I was just taking a hiatus. I'll be here, don't worry. I don't know if you've heard or not, but the CentOS project that has been going for years and years and years is unfortunately going to be canceled. There will still be a version of CentOS called CentOS Stream, and if you're interested in each of the versions and how they differ, Red Hat to CentOS Stream, I have a video on that I will put the link for in the description, and I'll also have, hopefully, a little, let's see, where my finger, yeah, way over here, no, way over there. Anyway, somewhere up there, a message should appear, and you can watch that video if you'd like. So, we've got kind of a strange animal here. How can I put it? Well, we've got Red Hat, Enterprise Linux. Most people call it RHEL. Sometimes I call it RHEL just to be silly. We have CentOS, which is essentially a bit-for-bit copy of the source code of Red Hat Linux. Then we have CentOS Stream, which is the newer product that the CentOS project has decided to produce. CentOS Stream is actually pretty cool. It's what they call a rolling distro, but in reality, it's literally code updates. It's almost like Fedora Rawhide, if you will. Fedora Rawhide, if you're on that distribution, you end up getting the latest packages of anything, especially, well, I shouldn't say especially, but that night. So Rawhide is compiled, I want to say every night, but I could be wrong. It might be more like every week or something like that. Needless to say, why did CentOS come about in the first place? Let's talk about a little bit of the history. Well, Red Hat's a pretty old company. They've been around for a long time, and long time being, I think it was in the late 90s when they surfaced. And originally you could get Red Hat for free, and then you could buy Red Hat on discs, but you could download it for free. And then Red Hat said, you know what, we could make a business structure whereby we provide top-level services to anybody who's serious about running a Linux workstation or server. So we will give server management so that they can log in and see all their servers. They can run updates through the server management. They can get phone support if they would like phone support, and multiple levels of support. So this is really, to a company that is getting started in Linux and kind of wants some backup. It's a good way to get started in Linux, but it's not cheap, and the price has slowly gone up. I'm not sure what it is now. Now, if you're a nonprofit, not-for-profit, or governmental institution, you usually get a very good price. Years back, we would get like a $50 annual price, and they call it an entitlement. So basically, we will give to you one entitlement to load workstation on one computer or load server. And once you link that entitlement with a computer, basically the only way you can get it back is by removing the entitlement. So it's almost like a licensing agreement in some ways, but it's not a license, it's an entitlement. Now, because Red Hat is based on the GPL, GNU Public Licensing Structure, they cannot, however, keep you from downloading the source code for free. The source code must be available. So CentOS came along and said, and it was a variety of other organizations that were creating bit-for-bit copies of Red Hat. And basically, they grouped together and said, let's go ahead and create a bit accurate version of Red Hat. We'll strip out all the intellectual property like the logos or checking in with the server for the services that you can have for your workstation or servers. And we will just create a near mirror version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and we won't charge anything. It'll be free. Well, initially it did quite well, but then it started to pick up quite a lot of steam. The reason being, as you know, businesses are constantly trying to cut corners, reduce spending any way they can. And one of the ways is, these manager types would sit in a meeting, directors, whatever, and say, well, isn't Linux free? I don't understand why we're paying for Linux when it's free. And I've been through this actual discussion with upper management. And you say, well, yes, it is free, but the services, support, and management of Red Hat is not free. And they say, okay, well, can you get a copy for free of some other Linux? They didn't even know what a distribution was. And you say, well, yes, we could. And what is the first thing any reasonable systems manager would look at? And it would be CentOS, because CentOS follows RHEL or RHEL's release schedule, meaning that Red Hat might have, let's say, version 5.0 come out. CentOS, about a month later, would get that source code and compile it, and there would be a CentOS 5.0. Sometimes it was longer. It just varied. But that operating system from CentOS was perfectly reliable. In other words, there were no changes. So all the stability that you got from Red Hat 5.0, you also got in CentOS 5.0. Perfect relationship. Perfect. Now, some things started to change as we got into the teens of this decade. One thing that changed, which was big, and I was fairly concerned about this, was when IBM purchased Red Hat. Now, I'd heard that Red Hat was on the market, and I was a little bit concerned of how Big Blue was going to run the show and whether or not it was going to cause problems with Red Hat. There's no way for us to know if IBM was leaning on Red Hat, and that's why what we're going to talk about happened or not. But IBM purchased Red Hat. Red Hat entered into an agreement with CentOS. They said, hey, we could do some major funding for CentOS because it's good for us in the sense that we can send the code and maybe some other information that would help them compile and get it to so-called market quicker. And in return, some of the updates and changes from CentOS could be shipped back to Red Hat. That sounded like a great idea. As I understand it, the CentOS Council slowly got taken over. Well, I don't know if it was slow actually, but the majority became Red Hat people. And the majority of the CentOS project's income provider was Red Hat. That still doesn't explain why this year Red Hat made a decision, and it was posted on CentOS. You can actually take a look at it. CentOS project shifts focus to CentOS Stream, but what they really meant was no more CentOS. So CentOS 8 is the last version of CentOS you will have. CentOS Stream is very interesting. They say the future of the CentOS project is Stream, and over the next year we'll be shifting focus from CentOS Linux, the rebuild of the Red Hat Enterprise Linux, the thing that made CentOS so awesome, to CentOS Stream, which tracks just ahead of a current RHEL release. CentOS Linux 8 as a rebuild of RHEL 8 will end, meaning support or any management that you could get from CentOS in 2021. And when I say support, I'm really talking about updates. So normally you would have 4 or 5 years support if you were on Red Hat and CentOS as well. Now, support is relative. Support on Red Hat is actually something you pay for, and you probably get phone support and other things. Whereas CentOS support really means we will continue to release updates based on the Red Hat code for your version of CentOS. Pretty cool, but not anymore. The CentOS Stream, which is an upstream development branch of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, is going to be the only CentOS. So you can see that it's going to be really cutting edge. This isn't something you would put on a server. So CentOS is going to go away. And what effect will that have on the Linux community? Well, for us desktop users, probably very little. I don't think many people will notice a difference unless you are a CentOS user directly. But the business segment, which use CentOS a lot on their servers, can you imagine having just deployed CentOS 8 on 100,000 servers? And you're thinking, well, I've got 4 or 5 more years before I have to worry about, support expiring on this. And then you find out that CentOS is shifting their stream, kind of silly, focus, not their stream, shifting their focus, and so they will no longer support CentOS version 8. You only get 1 year of support, so it's going to end in December of 2021. For somebody that's configured and deployed many servers, that would really be bad news. It'd be very difficult for me. Just from, the level of work that it'll take to move it to another appropriate Linux operating system. It sounds easy, but you got to think about all the applications that are running, and they're usually web-based applications or databases. You don't know how that application is going to work if you're on CentOS 8 versus, say, Debian as your server, Ubuntu, if you would rather me say it like that. And I really don't consider Fedora Linux tenable if you want to run a server, because really they only have 6 months of support, and the last thing you want to do is have to change your version of Linux every 6 months when you need total reliability, minor security changes only. So you can't use Fedora. So that brings me to another question. So now Red Hat 8 Stream, sorry, I'm reading this and I'm reading it wrong. So CentOS Stream is going to be the upstream, kind of the innovative development branch of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is what Fedora is doing. And if you look at how they're positioning these different software packages, it gets very, very confusing. So Fedora might create some changes in the code, and maybe CentOS Stream likes it, so they import it into CentOS Stream to Fedora. Red Hat may take updates from Fedora and updates from CentOS Stream. It gets really confusing. And my thoughts are, and I may be wrong, but I'm thinking that Fedora is going to go away. And here's why I say that. Now, right now, it's working great, but if CentOS Stream, a rolling distribution, which basically supersedes the 6-month release of each Fedora distribution, version, I should say, is it necessary now to have Fedora? Is Fedora outmoded, their release method? and we can have something much more cutting edge, on a regular basis. I don't know how often they would recompile the source code, but much faster than the 6 months. Of course, the trade-off is reliability, and there's no getting around that, because if you install Stream and you get all your applications to work and there's a new version available a week later, how will that affect you? But I'm really thinking they're going to get rid of Fedora. And the only reason I think that is because of Red Hat's very quick shift of getting rid of CentOS 8. So they're not going to wait 4 or 5 years and give that support. They're ending it now. They want to get out, basically. They want to get out of the market. And this seems to be from a business perspective, is what I think. So IBM may have knocked on Red Hat's door and said, hey, is there something you could do about containing costs? And we've got a lot of duplication here that we don't need. Why are we making a Red Hat Enterprise Linux and a CentOS 8? That's just silly. We have 2 development organizations, basically. And Red Hat said, we could get rid of CentOS 8 and cut the corners, move the development people we need from CentOS 8 to Red Hat projects or CentOS 8 Stream. And we could, to save even more money, get rid of Fedora Linux, because we probably have enough development going on with CentOS 8 Stream and Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or hell, that we don't need Fedora anymore. We can continue to streamline everything. There is a problem. When Red Hat decided to get rid of the CentOS packages, it created an instant vacuum. So if somebody's getting server product free and they have 100,000 servers, using our example earlier, they're not inclined to go purchase it from Red Hat. They may not have it in their budget at all, and the costs involved are prohibitive. But I feel like Red Hat thinks its position in the market, they can go ahead and cancel CentOS 8, snip the cord, and say, what are you going to do now? Well, you can go to Debian if you want, but if you want the same code base, you're going to have to use RHEL. I would say well over 50% of the companies would say no. So my thoughts are, what we're going to see happen is another organization is going to come along that isn't affiliated with a company and do a bit-for-bit compilation of the Red Hat Enterprise code. And again, there will be no charge. That's all I can imagine. Whether it will surface in the next year or it will surface in 3 or 4 years, we have this huge vacuum now in the professional Linux distribution environment. And I don't think Debian is in the correct position to take care of that. They might, I haven't used any Debian for servers, so I don't know. It may be that Debian's ready for prime time and could take over the server environment throughout the world, or not. I would not use Ubuntu, and the reason my thoughts are don't use Ubuntu is because Ubuntu also is owned by a private company that is for profit. It does concern me when you're getting kicked from CentOS 8 via a private company, right? And then go to another private company and just hope for the best. Just hope you've got 4 more years, with support and whatnot. So I would be very nervous. Anyway, my predictions, another organization, nonprofit, is going to come up and do a bit-for-bit compilation of the Red Hat code and create a new CentOS-like Linux. And I'm very concerned. I can't say, I guess the percentage of chance I would give is like 70 that Fedora is going to go away as well. Now, I was looking at the Fedora website. Fedora sponsors. Red Hat Incorporated is the primary sponsor for the Fedora project. Red Hat provides the Fedora project with a wide variety of resources, including full-time employee support, infrastructure hardware and bandwidth, event funding, and legal counsel. For an organization that's huge, just think about it if they pulled something. Well, we no longer will give you full-time employee support, meaning pay for it. And our infrastructure that we have for hardware and bandwidth, server implementations for development and production, no, we're not going to do that anymore. Event funding, probably could live without it. Legal counsel, that would make me really nervous. So if Red Hat and IBM decide, no, we don't need Fedora, we have CentOS Stream, Fedora will go away. If Red Hat chooses, they can make it go away, just like they did the CentOS project. I'm worried, but I'm going to hang in there. I'm still using Fedora. I'm still on Fedora 32. I do look forward to upgrading to Fedora 33, although I do not think I'm going to do it from scratch to get BTRFS or ButterRFS or ButterFS, I believe, because there really aren't a huge number of changes. They're going to slowly implement the changes into Fedora as time goes on, so I'll probably wait a year or so before I scratch my Linux and start over. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. I'm really curious to see how you feel about this situation. How do you feel about privately owned companies that are for-profit running these types of projects and what they do with them? It really worries me. Not from an individual standpoint. We can always find another distro as an individual, but if you were running a large organization and you relied on CentOS, ow, that would really hurt. So let me know. Leave a comment below. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this with me. Let me know what you think. We already talked about that. Right. Anyway, if you get a chance, subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and the comments always help. Thanks for watching. This video was made possible with support from viewers like you. If you find this video useful, consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/FastGadgets.